Moore and John Jackson. In a moment, we should have Daniel Jeremiah. I believe we do have him now. The NFL Network's draft expert joins us. This guy's as knowledgeable on the entire draft process, but also big-time knowledge on USC football. Thank you for joining the show, Daniel Jeremiah, at Move the Sticks on Twitter. How's it going?
I'm doing great. I think it's actually the first time ever I've come to the Combine, and it's warmer here than it was when I left Southern California this morning.
It's cold here, man. It is cold. We had to move
it.
the show inside. Usually we're outside under the Southern California moon, and tonight we're inside. And you are in Indy. All eyes on our guy, Sam Darnolds, who you had as number one in your mock draft. Listen, I know that you know him as well as anybody, so there's not maybe a lot for you to learn this week and in this pre-draft process, but what do you think is the most important thing that he needs to show the NFL teams?
Well, I mean, look, he's not going to throw, so there's nothing really to show on the field in that standpoint. I think he's going to be much more athletic than a lot of casual observers know. You know his background, you know his athletic story as well as you guys do. I think he'll test really well there. The biggest thing for him probably in the whole week is just going to be, does he command the room when he gets in the interview setting? Those 15-minute interviews at night, I've been in there, and you can kind of tell the guys that have a presence about them and have a confidence about them. I think Sam's not the most outspoken guy, but I do think he has a presence about him, and I think he'll help himself when he gets in there.
And how much can you prep for that? Because they always talk about that being so important, the meeting with these coaches and how they can evaluate them in a 15-minute segment. I don't know how that works out, but how do you prepare for that, situation? And is it possible for you to, get better? How that's sort of an intangible that's really hard to measure.
Yeah, no, look, you're right, John. You get in there and you're going to spend 15 minutes. You're going to spend the first 7 or 8 minutes telling, they're going to get your background information, which it won't take too long with Sam because he's really got no character flags. He's got no medical red flags, so that'll be quick. And then you turn it over to talk about ball. They're going to put tape on in the room, ask him to explain things. The advice I always give these kids, and I get a chance to talk with a lot of them before they come here and do this, is that, look, go through the background information. You get them clear answers. You're concise, and you want to just get through that. And as soon as you start talking football, they should notice a change in your demeanor. You should perk up a little bit and get fired up because this is what you love is doing the football part of the conversation. So it's just having good energy. The last thing you want to do is slump in your chair, don't look people in the eye, and have no energy. So that's the challenge all those guys have.
You're listening to Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network on Trojans Live here. The NFL Network will carry the NFL Combine all weekend long. The USC players are on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I know it sounds crazy, but it's the classic Combine question. How important is the hand size measurement for Darnold? Because if you're going to give him a knock, it was that there were a lot of fumbles at USC. Is that almost maybe the most important thing, to see if his hands are normal sized, I guess?
Yeah, look, some people are really intrigued by that. I think they'll come in fine. I've been around him a bunch and seen him up close. I don't think that's going to be that big of an issue. I think people just put 2 and 2 together and say the fumbles, okay, how big are his hands? So, look, the minimum threshold you got to hit is 9 inches, and that's where Goff came in last year or 2 years ago. That was the talk about him. So there's always one guy that you come into this wondering about, but I think Sam will check out there fine. His biggest issue is just, and I'm sure you guys have seen it as well as I have, is when he has a bad habit of when he gets pressured and when he has to move and escape that he takes his left hand off the ball. So that's going to alleviate a lot of those fumbles. And some of those fumble stats, too, when you go back and look at them and study them, and I've done that, some of them are on the mesh. They're on the mesh on a zone read. So it's like, technically I guess it's Sam's fumble, but that's a little bit goofy.
Yeah.
Since the end of the season, most people like you had Sam as rated as the number one guy, in their mock draft. And then he's sort of fallen a little bit, and even he's fallen behind, a quarterback or two in some of other of the experts' drafts. I know it doesn't mean that much, but without working out, without people seeing him, what has led to the slight fall or the slight slip for Sam between the end of the season and now before the Combine?
Well, I think it's just kind of whatever flavor you like from these quarterbacks. They're all different. They all have different strengths and weaknesses. So some of it's just beauty's in the eye of the beholder in terms of how they're slotting these guys in. So to me, I keep coming back to the same thing. I've seen Sam do everything I want a quarterback to do. I know he's got it in him. I've seen it. I've seen him in big moments. I've seen him drive the ball. I've seen him throw with touch. I've seen him make on-schedule throws. I've seen him create and make things happen off schedule. I love his toughness. I love everything I hear about him from a background standpoint and checks out off the field. So to me, he just checks more boxes than everybody else. That's why I've kind of kept him there and haven't moved him.
Talking NFL Combine, NFL Draft with Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network. Ronald Jones is a guy that maybe seems to be moving up in some people's eyes. Again, we hold him in the highest regard here. Just had a tremendous junior season at USC. How does he get himself into that first round? It seems like he's, in many people's eyes, right on that border and late first, early second. How does he move his way up?
Well, I mean, I've got him as one of the top 15 players in the country. So he's one of the 15 best players in the draft, in my opinion. You know, it's going to come down to how people value the position and whether or not they're just going to hold off and wait. But he just needs to validate the speed that you see. And I don't think that'll be a problem. He's got track in his background. He's been fast every time he's stepped on a football field. I don't think that's going to change. So just go out there and validate that, and we'll see where his weight is. You guys know he put on some weight this year, which was good weight. If he can carry that over into the combine, it would be big. Anything north of 206, 207, be north of there. He'll be in great shape. I think he's a first-round talent. It's just going to come down to where people stand on how early you take these running backs.
Talk to me a little bit about Beyonce Burnett. I mean, for me, he's a very complete receiver. The knock, I would guess, is going to be on his size and maybe even his weight. What does he need to show at this combine to elevate his status from where some people might think that he might be a lower round draft choice, not because of his playing ability, because he did spectacular things at USC, but maybe because of the height and the weight issue?
Yeah, I mean, look, JJ, you know as well as anybody, when you play inside, especially at this level, you got to be strong in there. You get banged around, you get knocked around. You're going to have to dig some guys out in the run game as well. So I think he's one of the best route runners in the draft. It's just going to be whether or not he's strong enough. Can he get off press consistently? Can he win? And we, in scouting, it's not sexy. We call it the blood area. You got to win in the blood area when you're in there. There's some banging that goes on in there. So I'm anxious to see where his weight's at. I mean, is he going to be 170 pounds? Is he going to be 185 pounds? I don't know. That's one of the things on the underclassmen. We don't have the official heights and weights from the spring. So the size thing is going to be big for him because he's a really good football player otherwise.
We're going to talk to Stephen Mitchell Jr. here in a moment, so I wanted to get to the other two players that are headed to Indianapolis that you'll see. Rasheem Green, Uchenna Nwosu, both really productive players last season at USC. Are they tweeners a little bit, though, in terms of is it important for them to show what their role is going to be, in whichever NFL team is looking at their system and how they fit in?
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating because different teams are going to have those guys at different positions. I like to see what Nwosu can do off the ball. I know the background with him and being a safety coming out of high school and adding all that weight. I think the benefit he has is, hey, I can get out there and cover. If he can show and go through the drills out here and show he can change direction and cover and even catch the football a little bit, I think that adds to his value. And then Rasheem, I mean, look, he had to do a lot of the dirty work inside, playing as a 3 technique. I actually like him better as a big left end, a 4-3 end, and get him out on the edge a little bit more. I thought the Notre Dame game, the Ohio State game, he got beat up pretty good in there, and I think he's going to benefit from sliding outside.
Run real quick question because we got to go. When it comes down to 40 times, back in my day, which is 1,000 years ago, it was the most important thing that could ever happen in your life. And a lot of guys now are skipping it. You talked about Sam. He won't work out there. Certain guys will skip the 40. How does that work in and how does that play in level of importance?
Always important at corners. It's always going to be important for corners. Receivers, we've hopefully learned our lesson not to have the be-all, end-all of the 40, but a corner's 40 time goes a long way. You got to be able to run at that position. But JJ, I don't know what you're talking about. I think you can still run. I watched those high school videos. You run out there with these youngsters. How you haven't popped a hammy. You're talking to a guy who popped an Achilles. I don't know how you do it, buddy.
All right, we're going to be watching Daniel Jeremiah break it down all week. Most knowledgeable guy in the business. We appreciate you joining our show. And again, NFL Combine this weekend on NFL Network. Countdown to kickoff with Mito Swiss watches since 1918. The official timekeeper of USA Athletics. Be the first to own the Fight On limited edition timepiece. True Trojan fans, visit shopmito.com/USC. That's shopmito.com/USC. Ivan Lewis talking more strength and conditioning and combine next on Trojans Live.